Let's be honest. Do you ever feel kind of stuck in that cycle of just endless scrolling, unable to focus on what you know actually matters? Well, if that's you, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going way beyond the idea of some quick fix. Instead, we're going to break down a structured, science-backed protocol. This thing is designed not just to reset your brain, but to literally rebuild your focus from the ground up.
Right off the bat, we have got to reframe this whole concept. I mean, look, anyone can challenge themselves to put their phone down for a day, but that's totally missing the point. The real goal here isn't to prove how much willpower you have, it's about intentionally changing your relationship with distraction so you can finally get back in control.
So many people treat a dopamine detox like it's an antibiotic, like a 24-hour pill that's supposed to magically reset your brain. But here's the thing, it just doesn't work that way. A quick fix almost always leads you right back to your old habits. A lasting protocol, though, that's about building an entirely new foundation for your focus.
And that foundation all starts with phase 1 preparation. This is the step where most people fail, and it's because they just skip right over it. Proper planning is what makes the difference between a temporary challenge that you forget about in a week and a truly successful life-changing detox.
Okay, so the first, and I mean the most important step, is to define your why. The doctor behind this protocol says his most successful patients aren't the ones with the most willpower. Nope, they're the ones who truly, deeply understand the consequences of not changing. So get real with yourself for a second. What's your life going to look like in 5 years if you stay on this exact path? That answer? That's the fuel you're going to need for real change.
So once you have your why locked in, it's time to define the what. This whole protocol is built on completely eliminating 4 specific categories of high dopamine activities. And here they are. First up, binge tech. We're talking social media, streaming, video games, and you have to physically delete the apps off your phone. Second, unhealthy sex. This includes porn, masturbation, and those dating apps that just give you these huge artificial dopamine spikes. Third, consumables. That means no alcohol, no recreational drugs, no junk food. And finally, thrill-seeking behaviors, things like gambling or even online shopping that totally exploit our brain's love for uncertain rewards.
So why? Why do we have to cut all this stuff out? Well, it's all about a biological process called desensitization. Imagine your brain's dopamine receptors are like little docking stations. When they're constantly flooded by all these intense activities, your brain actually protects itself by literally shutting down some of those stations. This is why the more you scroll or binge, the less satisfaction you actually feel. You're becoming desensitized. Here is a perfect way to think about it. Overstimulation is like cranking your phone's volume all the way to max while it's plugged into a giant, powerful speaker. The sound just gets distorted and painful, right? So to fix it, you don't mess with the speaker, you just turn down the input from the phone. In this detox, your brain is the speaker and we're just turning down the input.
So how long does this take? Well, the protocol requires a bare minimum of 7 days. That's the estimated time your brain needs for its dopamine receptors to get back to a state of balance, or what scientists call homeostasis. It's basically a factory reset.
And that leads us right into phase 2, execution. We've laid the groundwork, and now it's time for the daily reset. This is the active part of the protocol, and it's all built around a core set of daily practices.
Okay, when you cut out all that stimulation, I can guarantee you're going to feel one emotion above all others: boredom. Our modern instinct, the second we feel it, is to grab our phone. But this protocol demands the exact opposite. You don't run from boredom, you sit with it, you tolerate it. That feeling of discomfort? That's actually a sign the rewiring process is working. But this isn't just about sitting in an empty room feeling bored. While you're tolerating that feeling, you're also actively reconditioning your brain to prefer healthier sources of dopamine. And we do this by adding 3 mandatory practices to your daily routine. No exceptions. The first practice is just 10 minutes of self-reflection. Could be meditation, journaling, whatever works for you. This is all about building self-awareness. The second is exercise. You got to move your body and create some healthy, natural dopamine. And the third is connection, as in having a real face-to-face conversation with another human being. These 3 actions work together to replace all those cheap dopamine hits with meaningful, sustainable ones.
So, once you've completed the detox week, we enter the final, and honestly the most critical part of the whole protocol, phase 3, restoration. This is where we take everything we learned from the detox and use it to intentionally build a better life moving forward.
And this really gets to the true purpose of the whole thing. Look, the goal is not to become some kind of monk and delete everything forever. In fact, if you have to make an absolute never-again rule, it means that technology still has control over you. The real goal is to get back the authority over your own mind, so that you get to decide how to consume things with intention.
To really understand this phase, we need to look at this awesome concept from Nassim Taleb called anti-fragility. We usually think of two outcomes after a stressful event. Something is either fragile and it breaks, or it's resilient and it just bounces back to how it was before. But there's a third option.
Think of it this way. A shield is resilient. It takes a big hit and bounces right back to its original shape. But the mythical Hydra, that's anti-fragile. When you cut off one of its heads, two more grow back in its place. It actually becomes stronger from the stress. The goal of this phase isn't just to bounce back, it's to grow back stronger. So, you've completed the detox. You hit the reset button. You don't want to just bounce back to where you were before, feeling stuck and unmotivated. You want to be stronger. So how do you actually do that? How do you decide what to let back into your life?
Well, you create a personal filter for every single decision. Before you reintroduce any habit or any app, you ask yourself two simple questions. First, does this align with my values? And second, does this actually help me become the person I want to be? If the answer to either one of those is no, it doesn't get back in. It's really that simple.
So here's what this can actually look like in practice. You might decide to reintroduce Instagram, but your intention is super specific. I'm only going to use this for design inspiration and to connect with 5 close friends. And then you set a hard rule, 20 minutes a day maximum. See the difference? This isn't mindless scrolling anymore. It's intentional use.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. This entire process gives you the power to become a curator of your own life. You can consciously choose the parts of technology, social media, or entertainment that add genuine value, and you just leave the rest behind. You are back in the driver's seat.
So, after all of this, you're left with a clean slate. You've got a reset baseline for your brain's dopamine system. The final question is no longer about what you need to cut out. It's about what you want to build. What kind of life are you going to intentionally create on top of this new foundation?